We are looking at a normal distribution. And as you can see, we have that lovely bell-shaped curve here. And if we have a normal distribution, we have what's called the empirical rule that will apply. And the empirical rule states that we have 68% of our data falls between one standard deviation from the mean. And if you remember, standard deviation is distance from the mean. 95% of our data will fall within 2 standard deviations of the mean, and then 99.7% of our data falls within 3 standard deviations of our mean. So we have some new notation here. These are Greek letters. Right here, this guy here is mu, and that represents the mean. And I, for the life of me, cannot remember what this letter is called. I'm sure someday it'll come back to me. And that guy represents standard deviation. And so let's kind of break this apart to see how much data is in each one of these sections. So if I'm just looking at one standard deviation from the mean, and I know that there's 68% of my data in there. Well, these are equal parts. So if I take 68 and divide it by 2, I get 34%. So each of these little portions have 34% of the data. Now let's take it out to 2 standard deviations. Well, between here and here, that is 95% of the data. Now we have to be careful. We don't want to take 95% divided by 2 because remember, 68% of it is right here. So if we take 95%, subtract that 68%, and then divide it into 2, we get 13.5%. And then within 3 standard deviations of the mean is 99.7% of our data. So again, if I take 99.7, subtract the 95%, divide that by 2, I get 2.35%. And then what's left out here? Remember, everything within here is 100% of your data. This would be 0.15% and 0.15%. And so with this breakdown, we can answer just about any question that they're going to give us. And just know that you can take different portions. For instance, anything above the mean, that's 50% of the data. If I'm just going to look here at my top, this is the top 16% of my data. That would be the lowest 16% of my data. So we'll work through a few examples so you can get comfortable with using empirical rule.